first step in this process is to identify the essential standards that will be used in your CFAs. It's important to do this for a few reasons. First of all, we have to realize that there is no way to teach every standard effectively with the amount of time we have in a school year. Every teacher makes instructional decisions about what subjects and standards get more time and attention. Some choose to teach topics in the order they are found in a textbook. Some teachers spend more time on subjects they enjoy teaching, and others spend more time teaching concepts they think will be tested the most. To be clear, when we are identifying essentials, it doesn't mean we won't teach every standard. What we are asking is that teachers make decisions about how much time and depth they will devote to each topic and skill based on several factors that will help students be more successful. Second, with CFAs, we are asking each teacher to help develop and analyze the data for these assessments. We want to focus on quality rather than quantity. Creating CFAs using only essentials allows us to honor teachers' time while ensuring better quality assessments and conversations around student learning. Lastly, this allows teachers to track students' progress in a few concentrated areas rather than trying to track every single standard for every single student. The biggest question most teachers have is how to actually identify which standards are essential. To start with, we need to drill down to the most detailed part of the standard. By doing this, we can hone in on specific content and skills without overwhelming the students with too many questions. In the past, we have sent out essential lists that were based almost entirely on state blueprints and information we received about how our students typically scored on state assessments. However, we want to shift to choosing essentials in a more well-rounded way. The state blueprints that outline what we will assess are not as detailed as they once were. In addition, the data we receive from the state about how our students scored is much less specific than it once was. These reports will not tell us how our students performed on specific standards, only how they did in broad domains of each subject. With this in mind, we believe it's important to use multiple factors when identifying your essentials. The fact that a standard will be assessed on a state or national test may be one factor in determining if it is an essential, but it should not be the only factor. We recommend teachers look at 4 different aspects of each standard to help pick their essentials. First, is the standard foundational? Meaning, is it necessary for students to learn this concept or skill to be successful on future content or skills later in the year or in future years? Second, is the standard life relevant? In other words, is this concept or skill something the students will use outside of school both now and the years to come? Third, is the standard assessed? This could be on either a state test or a national test like the ACT or SAT. Finally, do students typically struggle on this standard? Is this a standard or skill that students get tripped up on or tend to take longer to understand than other standards? We have created a document called Essential Standards Checklist that you can download and print. It has a space for you to write in your standards and then has checkboxes for each of the 4 factors. The goal is to look at each standard through the lens of these 4 factors. If a standard meets 0 or 1 of the factors, it is probably not an essential. If the standard meets 3 or 4 of the factors, it probably should be an essential. If the standard has 2 out of the 4, the standard should be discussed with the team. Remember, the overall goal is to narrow down the number of essential standards you will use to a manageable number. Depending on the grade and subject, a good number of essentials to shoot for is between 6 and 16. This doesn't mean that you have to do 16 CFAs. You can assess more than one essential on a single CFA. We go into more detail about this in the video about CFA guidelines and administration. A couple of things to consider when working through the process. It is important to closely read the standards, especially with the standards that have changed in the last few years. Sometimes one standard will require that students know or do a number of things. Really knowing what the standard is saying, rather than just the overall topic of the standard, can help you identify whether it should be considered an essential. You might find after filling out the Essential Standards Checklist that you have fewer than 6 or more than 16 that you feel like are essential. At this point, you may need to discuss adding a few standards or taking a few standards out of your essential list. Remember, this does not mean you won't teach standards that are not considered essential, but that you will not devote as much time and energy on the non-essential standards. We understand that this is a more detailed process, but we think this will improve the quality of these essential lists. And since this is the first step in the CFA process, it will help you to get better information about how to be better supporters of your students in your classrooms. If you have questions about this process, please contact us. We would be happy to work with your school or team to help support you in identifying your essentials. In the next video, we will discuss recommended guidelines for what the CFAs should look like and how they should be administered.